Well, research in sustainable finance is needed as always, as it has been needed for the last few years. There are basically two important questions. The first question is how to measure the environmental impact of investments, impact of investments on the society if we are talking about the social aspect of sustainable finance. So this impact can take many different forms. For example, we want to measure the alignment of financial assets to the Paris Agreement, for example. And for these alignment measures, we need to have forward-looking metrics. So we need to extrapolate, for example, the performance of a company into the future. And for this, of course, research modeling is needed. Another aspect is to measure the additionality of investment. This means that when you invest a certain amount of money into a green firm, you need to be able to prove that your investment has made this company greener. Your investment has made an impact on the real economy, on the emissions. Because if you simply buy a stock or a green company from somebody else, there is of course no guarantee that this will make anything greener and the overall emissions will decrease. And the second goal of research in sustainable finance is to measure climate-related financial risks related to sustainability and climate. And here, a very interesting notion that I want to mention is the notion of green swan, which comes from a paper by Patrick Bolton and co-authors published a year and a half ago. So, of course, you are familiar with black swans. The black swans are events that are unexpected, rare, can have a very large impact, and can only be explained after the fact. Well, green swans are so-called climate black swans. So these are climate-related events of type black swans, but they are actually different because they are not rare. We know that these climate risks we do not know what form they will take, but we know that at some point they will come to pass, they will be realized. So it's not a rare event. Second, they can have a much more important consequences, even threatening the life on our entire planet, whereas financial crisis can have important consequences on the economy, but not so important as climate risks. And the third issue is that they are much more complex to model, and this is where the research is needed, of course. The research is needed to understand and predict, well, maybe not predict, but at least say something about these green swans. The main challenges are to have reliable data, to have data that is sufficiently granular, for example, at the level of a single asset, as was discussed, for example, in the risk forum. Another challenge is the standardization. So we need to have some standards according to which the companies, for example, report the climate-related performance in order for different sources of data to be comparable among each other. We need to have forward-looking data, as I already mentioned. We need to avoid greenwashing. And the last challenge is we need different data sources to be interoperable between one another. So we need to be able to combine in an efficient manner data coming from different sources. Because green finance, as opposed to classical finance, green finance uses a multitude of data sources, extra financial data, and all these sources need to be made to work together. We first of all need to understand what data we need to solve the problems that we are trying to solve and where this data is. An important step in this direction is the NGFS data repository that will list the use cases and the data sources. And secondly, we need to create databases which contain this data and which will be accessible to researchers, non-governmental organizations and the regulators alike. And we need standardization and we need stronger disclosure mandates.